True influencers banned from Japan. Like, honestly, like my issue with Japan right now is just how lenient they are at people who are like extremely problematic or people who like to insult their culture, right? Like they tend to just not really have like a harsh penalty or something like that. And so what people will do is they just um, act like buffoons, and then the repercussion is just not strong enough. That's why Johnny Somali was able to get away, and that's why a breed of people that like to cause trouble end up uh, acting the way they do in Japan. Like the one person who tried to not pay a bus in Japan, and then he did like the whole train ride and stuff like that. And I don't even think he got that bad of a repercussion for that. So yeah, I wonder like who these
You
people
got
are.
two influencers banned from Japan because essentially this stunt was supposed to generate attention online. But
And it
after
did, right?
two
It
Americans
doesn't matter
entered
though.
the enclosure of a famous baby monkey in Japan, they ended up
Oh,
getting the attention from the police instead. So here you have two
it's
American
it's
influencers.
kind of crazy though, right? Because a lot of people do stupid stuff in zoos. They like to climb over like a lion's den or something like that, not even knowing like what these wild animals will do. And the worst part is that animal ends up getting put down because of them, because they act on their
Traveling
instincts.
all the way to Japan and entering the
But it
enclosure
is
of
what
one
it
of the
is.
internet's most beloved animals, Punch the Monkey.
Everybody loves Punch the Monkey, and maybe a little bit too much. Two Americans were arrested after trying to break into his
It's
enclosure at the
Americans.
Ishikawa Zoo in
Of
Japan.
course it is. Why
Police
wouldn't it be?
detained Reed Janai Dason and Neil Jabari Dwan, both in their 20s. They say one man jumped the fence while the other filmed. Video shows a person in a blue suit with a stuffed emoji head climbing into and around the enclosure. That emoji used to promote meme coin cryptocurrencies.
Oh
The
yeah?
macaques reportedly were
How did that go?
terrified, having gone long on Dogecoin back in 2021. The intruder also was seen with a stuffed toy. The two Curious Georges were arrested and charged with obstructing zoo operations.
Honestly,
Were
I
they
would just love to
given...
see one headline about influencers visiting another country that doesn't involve someone getting arrested, detained.
Nah, because that just doesn't generate anything. Like, positive content honestly doesn't do anything for people. People thrive on negativity and they enjoy like that kind of stuff. Or like they enjoy watching someone like do wacky stuff like this and getting in trouble. But the issue is that they don't they aren't taken seriously enough, right? So like a lot of influencers go to Japan because they realize that the the profit of like them being seen is higher than like them uh facing the repercussion, the issue, right? Or like what is Japan doing right now against influencers? I'm not so sure. But I could believe that the fact that there's so many influencers that are going to Japan just to cause all of this like nonsense, it means that Japan isn't taking these kind of people seriously enough.
Deported are becoming the reasons local officials have to rewrite policy and locals hating
They
them.
should have done that
I just
faster.
hate
They
these
should have
influencers.
they should have snipped it in the bud at the first time it actually like it was like such a major deal, which is the Johnny Somali. They should have kept Johnny Somali a lot longer. Unfortunately, they released him, and then he ends up doing it to other countries, which, like, they released him, and then he jumps to another country, and he doesn't really care about like, oh, what the country says or like what they say. He's like, if he can make money off of it, he will, right? And because like that's how he thrives, because they aren't taken seriously because they're treated like, you know, like issue like someone else's baggage. They end up bouncing repeatedly back to those kind of like
Even though that's what all the headlines say, I much prefer creators because who are these people influencing? But regardless, I just want like
they are influencing people. Johnny Somali influenced a bunch of bad, negative people to end up doing those kind of pranks, quote unquote pranks, or quote unquote being nuisance like causing trouble all over Japan, causing trouble all over like other countries as well. Like that's why we have these nuisance streamers, right? That's why we have these people who become like headlines because they are from typically they're from America, and then they just end up doing this. They're from United States, and then they end up doing this. They're like people who are like in American soil, and then they end up like causing all of these issues, right? And nothing ever happens to them.
Headline, obviously it's not going to generate as many clicks, but I want a
It isn't.
simple headline of something like American influencer visits Japan, enjoys the culture, takes some pictures.
And here's the thing, there is a lot more people who do that, right? But that doesn't it doesn't do anything for like news stations or stuff like that. Like having like more dramatic stuff is a lot more it brings a lot more clicks, right? Than just
Enjoys
like
the food
positivity.
and returns home without a single incident. Is that too much to ask for? But no, instead we get
That
this.
is.
So according to Japanese authorities, you have 24-year-old Raid Janai Daesun and 27-year-old Neil Jabri Duan, where both of them were arrested after an incident in Ichikawa Zoo near Tokyo, where Daesun entered the monkey enclosure while Duan was filming from the outside. And authorities say the person who entered the enclosure was wearing a bright blue suit and a giant emoji-style mascot face. Because apparently, if you're going to become an international nuisance, you might as well
Let's see,
dress up
like
like some
he is being an influencer, like right there. He like people are taking pictures of him because he is like he is something.
degenerate meme coin mascot. But before we get into more details on the story, we should probably talk about the monkey itself, because this isn't just some random animal at some random zoo. This is Punch. And if you somehow missed the whole story around Punch, you need to understand this monkey has a genuine fan base. The internet became very invested in this monkey's life. And I know that sounds a little bit
They became
ridiculous
like
until you actually look at
parasocial.
what happened, because Punch unfortunately was abandoned by his mother shortly after he was born. So Punch was then raised by the zoo staff. And, when keepers
And then they
recently
started
introduced him to the larger monkey troop,
being
he
clingy
struggled
to the
fit in.
zoo
And
staff.
again, unlike most young monkeys, Punch didn't have a mother teaching him how to interact with the other monkeys. So videos showed him approaching adults only to get pushed away. And people
that's
started finding this
sad.
tiny monkey and trying to figure out where he belonged. So you had a whole bunch of videos of Punch
Oh yeah,
gathering around
so
a
it
stuffed
seems like he
orangutan
generated a
because
lot
he
of
didn't have
parasocial
any other
fans
monkeys to
who
sit
wanted
with. So then the internet
something better
decided
for
that we're just
him,
going
and
to
then
pour infinite love into
even
this
though I'm
monkey.
pretty sure the
Yeah,
staff were
I'll
gonna
check
take
in,
care of it no matter
If
what.
anything happened to him, I would
Delete.
everyone in this room and then myself.
And the zoo started launching the hashtag Hang in There Punch. And suddenly, videos that were originally intended as simple zoo updates were being viewed by millions of people around the world. Like, was Punch
Oh.
bullied today? Did he sit next to another monkey today? Did he make a new friend? Every time there was an update, people either celebrated or were worried for him. And I am not even exaggerating.
That reminds me
People
of
were following Punch the monkey,
that
like
Jim
people,
Carrey
I guess,
movie.
follow their favorite sports team. And this stuffed orangutan became a huge part of that story. Everywhere Punch went, he brought his little stuffed orangutan with him. And while visitors thought this was adorable, zoo staff actually viewed it a little bit differently. So according to the zoo, the stuffed animal was essentially acting as a substitute
Yeah, that's
source of
understandable.
comfort. And the goal wasn't for Punch to carry it forever. The goal was for him to eventually gain enough confidence that he wouldn't need it anymore. And little by little, things started
Yeah, if he
improving.
gets too
So
attached
videos
to
showed
it,
that Punch was
it'll
actually spending
cripple
more and
his
more time
development,
with and around
his
other
social
monkeys.
development.
And instead of being pushed away, he was actually gradually being accepted. The lonely monkey was finally finding his place. And that's when Punch's popularity exploded. So visitor numbers at the zoo more than doubled. People traveled specifically all the way to Japan just to see him. And people started buying the exact same stuffed orangutan that he carried around. And at one point, the zoo was receiving so much attention that visitors were actually asked to stay quiet around the enclosure and limit how long they were watching the monkeys so they wouldn't become stressed. And then on top of that, people started donating more and more money just because they wanted to support him and the zoo. And eventually, donations reached the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, there were social media pages
That kind of
dedicated
altruism
entirely to
is like
posting updates about
double-edged.
Punch, and their websites dedicated entirely to tracking Punch's updates. And I'm not even joking. I mean, there are people whose job appears to be keeping the public informed about the daily activities of one monkey. And at one point,
Yeah.
even after the incident that we're about to discuss, fans were so worried that websites started publishing updates specifically reassuring people that Punch had not been injured. Like, think about
That's
that
how
for a
they get the
second. Like, this
clicks.
monkey has reached a level of fame where strangers around the world are checking in on the breaking news updates to make sure that he's having a good day. Honestly, the little guy has better PR than most celebrities out there. And that's exactly why what happened on May 17th caused such a huge reaction. Because May 17th, what I know it as is the Independence Day of Norway. Gratulerer med dagen to all my Norwegians out there. But unfortunately, for all the Punch fans out there, that's when they got jump scared because these morons decided to do this social media stunt where one of them jumped into the enclosure where Punch was. On the 17th of May of
Just to
2026,
promote
Ryan
their
and Neil,
own
they arrive here at the zoo. And
whatever.
I do also want to just like reiterate how much effort these guys put into this because they bought plane tickets, they traveled all the way to Japan, they made it through customs, made it to the zoo, and put on a costume so they could then jump into an enclosure with a monkey. I mean, what a fascinating use of free will. Like, of all things to do,
It did generate a
like,
lot
I
of
get why
like
they're trying
views
to promote
though.
some
Like a lot of people
cryptocurrency,
were
but
already
still, at no point did
parasocial
either of them
towards
think
the
maybe it's
monkey,
not
and
a good
then
idea to jump into an
these
enclosure
people
with a
end
bunch of
up doing that
monkeys
kind
here
of
in
stunt.
Japan. But I guess no, they didn't think that whatsoever. Because let's be real, there is no way they could have done this and not been caught. But regardless, I guess they have
They didn't care
more
if they would
commitment
get
than
caught, I'm
brains,
assuming.
and they were arrested for this. And the video from
Mhm.
the incident shows the dude in the costume climbing over the barrier and dropping down into the enclosure. And immediately, things went exactly the way you would expect. The monkeys didn't want anything to do with this, and witnesses reported that the troops scattered away from the intruder and moved towards higher ground. So nearly 50 to 60 monkeys were inside that enclosure at the time, including Punch. And now all these monkeys suddenly had this giant yellow emoji fall into their neighborhood. But thankfully, that's when zoo staff got in there and no one was hurt and no monkeys were hurt. But the zoo staff later said the animals appeared to be scared by the incident. And
Of
the
course, why
monkeys
would they not
don't
be?
know if they're a part of a
Some
prank or not, as far
random
as they're concerned.
alien
Also, a
figure
giant
just
mysterious
suddenly
creature
come
just
out of
dropping
nowhere
into
and
the
then
enclosure, you're gonna have a bad day regardless of what creature.
like why would they
But of
not
course,
be
as I
scared?
hinted at earlier, all of this was tied to some dumb meme coin or a crypto promotion. So that's when I have to remind myself, hey, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Because what do you mean that you're flying across the world to harass a monkey that's known for having social problems?
Well, it's a
But
gamble,
apparently
and
the
it's a
stunt was
gamble on
connected to a
their
content
favor.
competition ran by some cryptocurrency meme coin. And here, I guess the prize was $1 million. So these giga brains thought if they flew to Japan and jumped into a monkey enclosure, they would win $1 million. Did they win $1 million? No. You know, because the main problem here is a chance to win $1 million is not the
But
same
that's how
thing
they
of
got
actually
'em.
receiving $1 million.
But
if you're
They
marketing
perceived it as them possibly getting that kind of money, so they just gambled in it regardless. And like, who knows? Maybe they could have like, because they have one of them was like recording it as well, right? So maybe that video like it generates like a lot of views and they could monetize that, right? And that's how you get a lot of. That's how you. I mean, that's how you can get some money, right? Pretty sure.
strategy involves in committing a crime in a foreign country, there's a decent chance that your business plan needs a little bit of workshopping. But hey, what's especially wild is they did defend the stunt afterwards because, according to the report, the goal was simply to give Punch a toy for companionship. Okay.
Yeah.
Punch already has a
Yeah,
toy,
sure.
and if you really wanted to do it, you could have given it to the zoo staff. Would have
Now
Punch
they
actually
always
used the
come
toy?
up with
Probably
these
not.
kind of
But at
stupid
least that would
excuses,
came
and
across as a little
it's
bit
just
more
an
genuine.
and it's
almost
just
giving the
to
same energy as showing up to Ronaldo's
make it so they're
house
not
with a soccer
liable.
ball. Like, okay,
They don't want to
thank
be
you,
in
but
trouble,
why?
but
And
at the same
also,
time,
you're
they don't really care
trespassing.
either. I'm pretty
Get
sure.
out. And apparently, this company did actually offer $1 million yen donation to the zoo afterwards because I guess they didn't want to be associated with these morons. But a lot of people were also kind of wondering why there was no apology from them. But essentially, the internet felt like they were saying, hey, sorry, your fence got broken by someone trying to win our prize.
Well, here's the thing, right? Regardless of this $1 million incentive, right? Someone was gonna do it, is my belief, right? Someone crazy enough, like, cause this monkey was already like generating um tons of parasocial fans, right? And they're like fanatic enough to fly a plane over to meet him in real life, right? So what's like the my thought process is it's gonna continue to escalate and then they're gonna like suddenly jump over that fence regardless because it's happened. It has happened. It has happened in like a gorilla enclosure. It's happened in like a lion or a tiger enclosure. Like all these like animals that should not be messed around with. Like people have dared themselves and some of them have actually faced like harsh repercussions for it, right? Like some of them has died from that, right? So regardless of this $1 million incentive, I feel like someone uh was gonna do it no matter what.
some money. But the key thing they didn't say is the people shouldn't have been climbing on that fence. And you're probably wondering, did this stunt help the crypto? Well, sadly, kind of. Because the
Yeah,
token
I
associated with
reckoned it.
Punch briefly jumped in value after the whole thing got some attention. But, you know, there was a small problem. The token was still reportedly down roughly 94% from the
Uh,
peak. So, in the grand scheme of
so
things,
it
I don't know
didn't
how much
really
that
do
actually
anything.
helped. And obviously, this is a meme coin, so as soon as it pumped a little bit, it completely retraced. So still,
But this is like
after all this attention, the project was
meme
nowhere
coins have
near what
always
it
been
once
like a
was.
hit or
And
miss
also, it didn't even
regardless.
take long for the situation to go from viral stunt to criminal case because the zoo obviously wasn't laughing, and neither were the Japanese authorities. So essentially, the consequences just started when he left the enclosure because almost immediately the zoo began making
kind of
changes, and officials expanded the restricted viewing area around the monkey enclosure. They also installed anti-intrusion netting, and they started additional patrols in the area. So essentially, these two guys made the viewing experience
Yeah,
of
they
genuine
ruined it.
fans way worse. Wow.
Yeah, they
Thank
destroyed
you.
that.
And they even
They
started
ruined it
talking
for
about if, you know,
people who are just
photography
acting
and
normal.
filming near the enclosure would be restricted or even banned. So think about that for a second. You have millions of people spending months following Punch stories. Families are traveling across the world to see this monkey. That opportunity might be removed. All because two complete morons thought it was a good idea
Honestly,
to climb
the
into the
monkey should just
enclosure
be
to try to farm
left to
attention
their own
for their
device.
meme
They
coin.
should just be
But
left
the
to
charges they got, depending
their own
on which
habitat.
report you read,
I feel
reads
like
a little bit different because they're all being
with the
translated. So some outlets are
bigger
calling it
audience, it
obstructing
just
zoo operations, and other describe it as
entirely
disrupting
like
business.
this
But regardless of the
like
wording, the
makes
important
them
part is
a
the
lot
Japanese
more
authorities didn't simply escort these guys
afraid,
out
I
of the
guess.
zoo. They actually arrested them. And unfortunately, every time stories
Nice.
like this happen, it seems like the dudes are like, well, come on, it was just a prank, bro. That's kind of what
This
they
is
were
a prank.
saying. And honestly, that's not even that far from their response. But
Don't
authorities
don't
referred
arrest
the
them. This
case
is
to
a prank.
prosecutors on suspicion of forcible obstruction of business. And both men have denied doing anything wrong. I don't know.
Yeah,
To me, getting
obviously
content this
they'd
way
say
is
not.
probably the dumbest thing possible. Like, why would you ever become a public nuisance and create chaos in hope of attention? Because then that content's just going to be used against you. Like I've said this in
Well, because
yesterday's video, and
they
it's
don't give a fuck. That's why they just don't care. They want to have that negative attention, but they want to like spin it, and and there are like a demographic, like younger demographic that enjoys these kind of stunts, right? Like jackass style stunts, but like in a different country where they could freely do whatever they want and know that they're probably not gonna get like arrested for that very long or something like that. Like it's not the same as like doing it at your home country where like the where you could get into like deeper trouble just for doing that
so
kind of
many videos
stunt.
before.
Even
Why
then,
would
I
you
think
ever
they
wanna
do
be
it there.
the
It
star
doesn't
witness
matter.
in the case against yourself? Just sounds backwards to me. And unfortunately for them, the internet didn't think it was as funny as what they thought because, you know, everyone was worried about Punch. So, you know, Punch here, in this case, is being seen as the victim. And these guys are the perpetrators who are ruining it for everyone.
So what happened to these
obviously,
guys?
it's safe to say nobody likes these influencers now. But hey, I guess if the goal was attention, they got some attention. It's just negative attention. And of course, they didn't win the prizes they wanted to. And they're essentially banned from Japan now. Because
Oh.
you might be wondering, why am I talking about this case now and not right when it happened? Well, I wanted to see what actually happened to these guys before I covered it. And there is an update to the story, but regardless, I guess we've just reached a point in internet history where viral animals need their own security detail. This is pretty sad. But at the end of the day, Japan fined them with 300,000 yen, which at the time of recording this video is roughly $1,900. And then on top of that,
Uh,
because of how Japan's rules are, they're essentially banned from Japan for at least 5 years because of this. Because
See,
in
I
Japan,
knew it. I'm just gonna end it right there. But I knew that they were just not gonna get into like as big of a trouble as
with
I
a
thought
criminal
they
record.
were gonna be. They were just like 5 years is nothing. Even then, maybe they could like disguise themselves or finagle their way through if they wanted to return. But like being banned from Japan doesn't mean anything. They could just make content somewhere else, their nuisance content somewhere else. And obviously, Japan could be like, it's not really our issue anymore. We don't have to take, like, we don't have to have them in our country, which I believe that, you know, that's like saying, that's like a dare, right? That's like, I feel like it's just gonna like incentivize some people who are like actually banned from Japan to want to try to enter in Japan again. Who knows? Yeah, anyways, yeah. Influencers at it again, doing what they always do best. They love making trouble because they were never like properly rep- reprimanded or the like, and they just now they feel like they're almost immortal, so they do whatever they want to do. It is what it is. Anyways, yep, see ya.